All right, week 10 almost is in the books. This is the PFF forecast. We have got the official beginning of football. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because there was snow today.
There was.
There was snow today in Green Bay. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman came on the show and told us how cold it was. I could feel their coldness because I had just ridden my bike in about 27-degree weather earlier this week. So I felt their pain. We saw the snow. The amazing thing about it is you figured the snow would have led to a Green Bay just running roughshod over Carolina. And actually, Kyle Allen kind of a little spunky.
He kept it close. The game went under. That was good. And Green Bay covered, and for the second time, Carolina was a trendy pick at like minus or +5 and didn't cover the spread, although this time they didn't get blown out, but
not quite for them.
It was an interesting game for Green Bay. The snow, I don't know how much it helped them try to stop. The Packers should have not punted on their last possession. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that wasn't great. We will talk about Aaron Rodgers a little bit later. We've got to start though with the Sunday night game that we just watched in Dallas, Minnesota. And the statement that I'm going to make is one that I never thought I would say. And that is Mike Zimmer made 5 or so decisions better than his opposing coach. And
is it only because we're the negative times the negative or negative minus the negative it's a positive? Because I count 2. He went 4 on 4th down, and then he went for 2 immediately after.
Yep.
But then Garrett had so many negative decisions that it turns out to be like 5 for
Right,
Zimmer.
that's what I'm saying. There was a gap of about 5. His positives, Garrett made some really, really bad decisions, starting in the first quarter where he decided to inexplicably punt from his own 40 and then not go for it down by a full touchdown. Instead kicks a field goal to cut it to, you guessed it, within a touchdown. The best part of Jason Garrett all evening was that he held up the one a couple of times and really looked firm in his conviction there. It's like me. It's like me at a bar. Yeah, bartender.
Whereas every time he did that, the other coach, Zimmer, acts like you act when you give up a bucket in basketball, which is to scream obscenities at the wall.
You didn't kick anything, though.
You have a great left kick, I would say. I've
been really working on my left foot.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a bad loss for Dallas. And I think we should focus on this a little bit from Dallas's perspective, because for Minnesota, look, they're still probably going to be playing for the wild card. But for Dallas, they need to win their division.
Mm-hmm.
And now, despite the fact that they beat the Eagles at home, they have a rougher road because the Eagles have such an easier schedule going down the pike.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Philadelphia has, as Chris talked about on the broadcast, one of the easiest schedules in the league. In fact, coming out of it, they have the 3rd easiest schedule in terms of PFF ELO. Dallas is in the, I believe, top 10 at least. And the thing is, when you compound that, so Dallas is at 8. When you compound that with the fact that we actually don't know how good Dallas is, it sort of exponentiates this issue, right? Because so far, Dallas has a bunch of wins against teams that I wouldn't consider particularly impressive, and then they have a loss against the Jets, and then they beat Philly, which is impressive.
Beat Philly,
but Philly played like crap in that game.
Philly turned the ball over twice in the first quarter. They
chose to receive though, so it was important that they did that.
The Cowboys go now to about a 50% chance to win the NFC East from 72 if they were to win that game. Yeah. And you mentioned it. The Cowboys on the harder end, 8th hardest, Eagles 3rd easiest. But here's the other thing with this is that the Cowboys are like a front-running team. When things are going well, everything is great in Dallas. And everyone talks about Dallas, nationwide. So having this game on Sunday Night Football and then losing it helps things start to snowball in the wrong direction, which is, I think, kind of tough. Dak managed to play, I thought, really, really well in this game and should be coming out of this game with, I'm an MVP candidate, like real seriously. Like if Russell Wilson doesn't get it, done or doesn't look impressive against the Niners
in a game that's going to decide the NFC West now with the Rams losing today,
the Dak Prescott, how well he played today was not deserving of a loss in this game. He played better than Kirk Cousins without a doubt.
Dak sort of throwing shade at completion percentage today, right? Because he was only 28 of 46, I believe, which is 28 of 46, which is not amazing in terms of percentage. But what did he do? He went down the field today, and the Vikings were vulnerable. I mean, between 10 and 19 yards, Dak had 15 completions and missed only 5. Like he was 15 of 20 between 10 and 15 yards. So, 10 and 19 yards, sorry. And those are just chunk plays, and he was getting them pretty frequently against Minnesota. So, 397 yards. When blitzed, he had 128.8, and that was really the Vikings' Achilles heel today. Was Linval Joseph wasn't playing. They let Sheldon Richardson go in the offseason. Shamar Stephan has now 5 pressures all year, and Jaleel Johnson's an inexperienced guy. Those guys only mustered 2 pressures all night. So, the Vikings had to get edge pressure or blitz, and, Dallas, for the most part, until the end, made them pay.
Under pressure, he was very good. He was only sacked once, 8.3 yards per attempt. He has done that all season long. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that play under pressure is not stable, and that's fine, but he has managed to generate more yards per play under pressure than any other quarterback has this year, and that has helped them be successful because that offensive line has not been great all year, particularly since coming back from the injuries. Those tackles have not been as good. Everson Griffin won plenty of times today against Tyron Smith. Let's talk a little bit about the Vikings here, because this was a big win for the Vikings, even though it was probably a bigger loss for the Cowboys. You are from Minnesota. You've been critical of Kirk Cousins in the past. Mm-hmm. Has this cleansed him of his iniquity?
Kirk averaged 5.7 yards today from a clean pocket. Okay, so
is that good?
No.
Oh, it's not good.
And he graded about average for us, right? Basically a 0 in the old system. And he completed 3 passes over 10 yards in the air.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
He didn't
have Adam Thielen.
He didn't mess up. He didn't have Adam Thielen, but that's part of the shtick with Minnesota. They're going 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a fullback, and running play action all the time. Kirk, he made some plays when 9.2 yards per attempt when pressured today, but you saw it in the last 2 drives of the game. The Vikings did not want Kirk Cousins to mess this game up, and to his credit, he didn't. But
they had a lead.
And
he protected
And I
it.
tweeted this out. Kirk Cousins is bad in prime time because when the Washington Redskins or the Minnesota Vikings are playing in prime time, they're not the reason. So why are they the reason? It's because they're playing good teams, and Kirk is bad against good teams because his team isn't as good. They're going to lose more because they're not favored.
Remember last year? I could feel the passion.
Yeah.
Not only, by the way, our headphones are super loud,
I will
and I may not be able to hear tomorrow. But remember last year when we flexed into the Minnesota-Chicago game, and Kirk, who, by the way, no longer leads the huddles anymore because they were so embarrassing, gets in the huddle in Chicago and goes, they flex in this game for us. It's like, no, man. And no one cares about you.
The one Sunday Night Football game they won last year was against Green Bay at home. And Green Bay was bad. They were 6-9-1 last year. Right. Dallas, and I tweeted, Dallas is not a very good football team. They have a very good quarterback playing terrifically. Their defense is bad and slower than it was last season. And the play calling is letting Dallas down. And so, granted, good win for Minnesota, but this is not like Kirk Cousins coming out party or anything. It was a good job of Kirk doing what they asked him to do, which was not as much as what Dallas asked Dak to do, which was light up the Minnesota defense, which he did.
But this was a big win for the Vikings because they do have a top half of the league hardest schedule going forward. The Rams lose, so that really hurts them in the wild card race. And they now have sort of like an outside 1/3 chance of winning the NFC North, but now about an 80% chance of making it to the playoffs, which is obviously big for them. Here was the MVP of this game, though. It was Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had 109 yards after the catch. The entire Minnesota Vikings corpus of receivers had a total of 220 yards.
There you use it. The corpus is such a great word. Yeah, I mean, good, and he only averaged, like, notice here, when we talk about running backs, we talk about their receiving. Dalvin only averaged 3.7 yards per carry today.
I mean, he was fine, but that's not what they won the game.
They won the game because he stretched the defense out by catching passes underneath and yakking it up. And Stephon Diggs was really nowhere to be found. I think the Byron Jones
couple of big pickups, but not overall. Which
the field goal at the end of the first half ended up being a margin that mattered because Dallas couldn't just kick a field goal and go ahead, and he was instrumental in that catch. They didn't track him with Byron Jones or anything, so there was that, Dallas kind of played the defense straight up. So, very interesting. Irv Smith had a good game, 5 catches. So, and obviously Kyle Rudolph, the previously yak master, 0 yak, but he did have 2 touchdowns.
Do you think that Dak gets the benefit of the doubt here because his coach was such a doofus and still? I talked about how I thought this would be the Dak for MVP segment of the season, and I feel like he's playing well enough for it. But the wins obviously matter. Rodgers played well again. Mahomes came back and was amazing. We'll talk about that in a second. Deshaun Watson had the week off. What do you think?
No, I think Dak's in the conversation. The problem is Dallas is not going to win the division and possibly won't make the playoffs in the NFC, and it'll be difficult for him to do anything in that regard.
The funny thing is that we were talking about Dak as the Dak up quarterback last year, right? And he wasn't great last year. He has really improved. He's taking far fewer sacks. I mean, that's the thing that really sticks out to me is under pressure. He used to just be a total disaster.
It was sack Prescott last year.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah. And now he's escaping. He's making plays. His throws on the run. I think they talked about this in the broadcast. He just looks so much more composed. Kudos to him. That's awesome. Another guy that is just destroying the league, trampling the slow, and hurdling the dying is Lamar Jackson. And people are going to get pissed off for bringing that up, but the dude has absolutely torched the Bengals and the Dolphins, just annihilated them. And it's great to see. He's been awesome. Lamar Jackson, MVP?
He's got a good chance at it. I mean, in this game today, we sort of thought that game was an under game, but it certainly didn't play that way because of turnovers and then, of course, the explosiveness that was. It
turns out they wanted to send a message again in this game, and they did.
Yeah, so very interesting.
Is this the funny thing about this is Lamar Jackson dropped back to throw 18 times. Like they didn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
He averaged 18 yards per attempt under pressure. He's only pressured 5 times. He didn't throw a single pass to the left side of the field. Like outside the numbers to the left side. Yeah. Didn't need to.
And he only had 18 rushing yards aside from the 47-yarder he had. That was an amazing play where he put his foot in the ground, spun, and all that kind of stuff. Mark Ingram only had 34 yards on the ground. It was a game where Lamar threw the ball, and then to the credit again we talked about of their defense, they're going out there and rolling Marcus Peters is playing basically the whole game. Marlon Humphrey's playing basically the whole game. And then they got Brandon Carr and Jimmy Smith sort of coming in as well. And they just cover teams up. And Ryan Finley's arm strength is just simply not good. We saw him lollipop the one that Marcus Peters returned.
It's not
great. Marcus Peters will be a player that, like, when he retires, like, no one will have thought he was good, and yet he's going to have, like, a highlight reel of, like, 20 down the left sideline interception returns for a touchdown. And we saw another one today.
I am going to underreact to this game because the Cincinnati Bengals, look, I can see their stadium from my apartment. It's not a brag. That's actually throwing mud on my own face. But I can tell you it is not rocking. There are more people walking the opposite direction as the game starts than are walking towards it. Winning in Cincinnati against the Bengals, regardless of the margin, is not impressive. But should we consider the Ravens more like we did maybe at the beginning of the season than in that kind of middle portion where they were struggling a little bit, because now they're healthy in the secondary, and Lamar Jackson, that offense, seemed to have found their groove.
Yeah, and if we look at their strength of schedule, they're not. I mean, they're average. Even after today, their average team down the stretch is an average. The average team they play is average in terms of PFF elo. So we're not talking about a team that got in with like a crappy. I mean, their schedule has been crappy, but it's not like going to get any more difficult down the stretch here. This week will be tough, but this is the front runner for the the AFC North and. A possible 1 or 2 seed in the AFC with Kansas City going down today.
All right. We're going to move on to the 3 teams that had big losses, but I want you to make a statement. More valuable player so far, Lamar or Dak?
I think it's Lamar, and I think it's only because I have to look, but to me, I think that the weapons Dallas has on the outside are a lot better than the weapons that Baltimore has on the outside. And if all Lamar was doing was running and getting all those yards as a runner, I would probably make it a little bit more even, but he is throwing, and he's throwing to tight ends that are just kind of just a guy, right? All of them. And his receivers, they put some draft capital there, but none of those guys are great. They're still rolling out Seth Roberts. So whereas Dak, I mean, you're talking about Cooper, you're talking about Gallup. Even Witten is still reliable underneath. As is, and Zeke's a better running back than any of the sled dogs on the Ravens. So, I say it's Lamar, and yeah.
I think you make a case for Dak because his coaching has been so terrible, and he's overcoming a lot of that.
That's true.
Whereas Lamar has the benefit of brilliant coaching on his side. But I have always thought that the MVP is a smashing together of the best quarterback and coach duo, and so I think it's Lamar. All right, the 3 teams that we did not expect to lose came in and laid some stinkers. So we're going to play a little who had the worst loss here. Worst loss, the Rams, the Saints, or the Chiefs? Which one was the worst?
Well, my feelings about the Steelers. I think the Steelers are actually a decent team, and so to go on the road and lose to them sucks, but I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's the worst of these 3. So let's throw the Rams out of there. And the Saints were due a loss like that, in my opinion, right? I think they're still the front runner for a 2 seed in the NFC. I think once San Francisco loses a couple games at that schedule, they'll be firmly in it. And I don't think there was anything fundamental about what the Falcons did to them today that
they just played hard.
That renders the Saints useless down the stretch. Basically, what the Falcons got the ball and keep away in the first half, and then the second half they turned on the heat on Breeze, and he got some sacks and there were some penalties and stuff. Kansas City losing to Ryan Tannehill after having a multiple score lead late in the fourth quarter is something I think is a recipe that for disaster in this Chiefs Pat Mahomes era. They can't play defense. And, we talked about they've played a lot better over the last few weeks and everything like that. Well, I think it's a lot because teams realized that they could slowly beat the Chiefs on the other side of the ball, right? But when it came time for a team to have to quickly beat the Chiefs, it was pretty easy. And it was pretty easy for Ryan Tannehill, who granted has played well in his 4 starts, is not anybody I'm enshrining to Canton.
So you're going Chiefs.
I'm going Chiefs. I think today's loss was the worst of. I think that today's loss is it shows the fundamental issues with what the Chiefs have to deal with.
You mean giving up 160 yards after contact to Derrick Henry and his turd tail isn't great?
Well, see, I wouldn't even be bothered so much.
What would you call that? It's because it's not a ponytail. Because it's too stiff to be a ponytail. Ponytails kind of wave around, but his is like a.
I mean, for me, it's yeah.
You're not gonna go there, huh?
No, for me, it's allowing Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball on you down the stretch, and also just the injuries they dealt with. Mitchell Schwartz went out, Eric Fisher went out, and Tyreek Hill went out for a while. They're a team that just can't seem to stay healthy either. And I know Mahomes played excellent, and they should have won the football game, but But I think their defense is just not good enough to get it done at times, and they're going to require a lot out of Mahomes. And he threw for 446 yards and 3 touchdowns today at 8.9 yards per attempt. Like, he did everything he could in this game.
Yeah, their defense is an absolute disaster. And here's the sad thing. I just don't know if Andy Reid's ever going to get it.
There's that too.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
the dude has a literal cheat code at quarterback, and doesn't get it.
Punts on nonsense.
He does not get it.
And like the Titans scored.
It's like someone handed him a salad. He's just like, "Now get this out of the way."
Well, the Titans, it was like the AFC Championship game all over. It was like the Titans scored with 17 seconds left, and I was at home today. I turned to my wife and I'm like, the Chiefs are going to get it. The Chiefs are only down a field goal. Like, here they come, and like. Sure as shit, they drove the ball, and they could set up they had 17 seconds to start the drive at their own 35, and he had them down in position to where they could run multiple plays to set up a field goal. Like, right. He's ridiculous, and it's not just his time management. I know, like, you know, our friend Seren talks about, like, well, don't be so hard on his time management. He had Alex Smith for all those years. It's not that. It's the fourth down stuff. To me, that's the fourth down stuff.
The worst.
That will cripple him.
How can you have this bad of a defense and not go for like every freaking fourth down?
You have the receivers that can separate. Like, Tyreek Hill is a separator. It's unreal. And you know, he did go for a fourth down later in the game, I believe, after Tyreek Hill dropped. But like, I mean, just consistently, right? Consistently.
All right. So I agree with you that it's not the Saints. And I said that the Saints were the best team in the NFL last week. Mm-hmm. I'm not stepping down from that. It happens. Teams lose. The Patriots, who won the Super Bowl last year, got absolutely kicked in the teeth by the Tennessee Titans last season. So I'm not worried about that loss. That was also a weird Falcons off by like rejuvenation game.
The Falcons, that game will tilt me about the Falcons forever, but yeah.
Whatever. By the way, the Saints allow Dan Quinn another week. They face the Falcons in a couple weeks. So I'm just saying.
Galaxy.
The Chiefs' loss was really bad, but here's the good news for the Chiefs. They play in the AFC. In the AFC, they suck. The worst loss was the Rams. You know how many touchdowns they scored on offense?
0.
It's not necessarily. So we knew the Chiefs were capable of losing these types of games. But this game wasn't a loss that showed you a fundamental issue that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
The Rams game was the biggest loss because it exposed an issue that we've been trying to push away because of the yardage numbers and the points numbers are all really big and awesome and fantastic. Their offense sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily Jared Goff's fault that the offensive line is so bad. It's not necessarily Sean McVay's fault that the offensive line is so bad.
It's Todd Gurley's fault.
But you know what is their fault?
Just kidding.
The fact that there are a bunch of teams that have had bad offensive lines, like the Chiefs, for example. Cam Irving plays for the Chiefs, right?
Left tackle for a whole season, basically, so far.
And they find a way to score points with the talent that they have.
Yes.
And Jared Goff is talented, and Todd Gurley is talented, and Cooper Kupp is talented, and Robert Woods is talented. I know they didn't have Brandon Cooks, but you're playing the frickin' Steelers and Mason Rudolph. And they have yet to figure out a way to manufacture yards in quick game. Their screen game looks absolutely atrocious. Yeah. They're doing the same things they did last season, and it's just not having that big of an effect. We thought we saw some wrinkles early on in the season.
Yeah.
Those just have not materialized, and their offense is so bad that they are not a playoff team.
But do you think it's a lot about chasing noise? So yeah, you talk about Goff today was 5.6 yards per attempt when clean today.
It's really bad.
Pittsburgh's defense is pretty good. Let's be honest with that. But they're not world beaters, right? Like they're one of their corners are Steven Nelson and Joe Hayden.
Also good offenses.
Yeah,
they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And the question is okay, how hard is it to build an offense how risky is it to build an offense that requires great quarterback play?
Very risky.
Well, no, it's not. It's not as risky as requiring an offense to have 5 good performances in the O-line, right?
But I think you're saying sort of the same thing.
Well, yeah, but to me, that offense requires the offensive linemen to play well and to be healthy and to have cohesion.
But why?
Right, because the quarterback, but it's also the way that the scheme is set up, though, because the scheme is set up because they know, like Goff, and I have to study this, but Goff may not be good on quick game. Goff might not be good on rhythm stuff. That like these quarterbacks that do well with bad offensive lines, they're good at things that Goff isn't good at, possibly. And so but probabilistically, the probability that you're going to have an offensive line stay healthy, play well, not age poorly for 3 consecutive years is just something that they should have calculated and haven't. And as a result, and we saw this. We said this a lot. The Rams do smart things, but no team is universally smart. And we're starting to see the weaknesses with McVay. It wasn't just his 4th down calls and everything like that. It's the fact that his offense has real significant weaknesses, the fact they paid Todd Gurley a ton of money, the fact they paid Brandon Cooks a ton of money when he hasn't been able to be consistent and stay healthy. And now we have, today they had one player play well. It was Gerald Everett was the only guy in their offense that played well. And they're an offense that intentionally de-emphasizes the tight end, and their backup tight end was the only one that actually made plays.
Yeah, Goff took 5 sacks. It was a thing that he had actually been better at. He was taking fewer sacks. He just he's got that Eli Manning, I don't really know what's going on, look going on quite often. And that was a lot today. He only had 3 passes that he threw 20-plus yards downfield. He completed 1 of them, had 1 interception. And his mid-range stuff was just not crisp at all. Just not. That's where he has been torching guys left and right, in 17 and 18 when they were good, and that's just disappeared.
So is your answer to this question more, because for me it was, okay, Kansas City's in real trouble. Have to play Matt Moore a couple games. Matt Moore squeaks out 1 of the 2 games. They're back in it in the AFC. And I had just written the Rams off because, probabilistically speaking, right? They had a chance for the 5th or 6th seed, but the chances that a guy like Jared Goff is going to be able to go on the road in the playoffs and win multiple games, he can go on the road and kind of flukily win in New Orleans once, but the idea that he could go in as a 5 or 6 seed in the NFC, probably a 6 seed given how good Minnesota is, and win all the games on the road, to me, I had already written the Rams off. Whereas I think the Chiefs are still, even though they're only a half game above Oakland, I think the Chiefs are at least going to win the AFC West. And so,
well, but that's why, because I still think the Chiefs are going to be just fine. And we knew that their defense sucked. And now the Rams, I agree with you, but the Rams went to the Super Bowl last year, whether it was fluky or not. They were in the freaking Super Bowl last year, and they suck now. And so let's talk about the Raiders for a second. The Raiders and the Steelers are kind of legit playoff contenders, which just says what I said previously, which is that the AFC sucks. I look at both these teams. Both these teams have a decent chance to make the playoffs. But if you had to pick one, the Raiders, they kind of have an offense. They're kind of fun.
Do you remember?
They got John Gruden.
You remember the second Oakland A Moneyball phase with Billy Beane? He said, we don't have enough money to buy full players, so they bought a bunch of platoon players for a third of the price, and that's how they did it. Brandon Moss couldn't hit right.
Yeah.
The AFC is so broke that with their 6th playoff team, they have to take half a team. So the Steelers' offense is an atrocity. Right. Their wide receivers can't catch, and when they do, they fumble. Their running backs are sled dogs. Their offensive line's good, but then their quarterback can't capitalize on it.
What if you combine them?
So their defense is great, right?
What if you combined them?
Yeah, and Oakland's defense is horrible. They can't get pass rush. They drafted a guy at 4 who's worse than the guy they drafted later in the draft from Western Michigan.
When they play the Chargers, though, they can get a pass rush.
And then their secondary, if we rolled out me and Renner, we could get open on their secondary.
True.
But their offense is great. Derek Carr is being protected really well. The receivers aren't awesome. Antonio Brown was supposed to be their best receiver.
Yeah, but they have Darren Waller and Tyrell Williams and Josh Jacobs making people miss.
Yeah.
If you combine those 2 teams, by the way, you'd have the 2 most popular logos. It'd be sweet.
But I don't think either team. I don't think either team is going to make hay in the playoffs. But I think they both are equally. I think they'll be scrapping it out, and I think probably the Steelers.
Which team would you rather face
in the playoffs? I would rather face the Steelers.
Yes. To me, it's not even close.
Because their offense is so bad that
it's terrible.
But the thing is Derek Carr, though, the issue with Derek Carr is he could self-destruct at any time. And, we wrote up the Chargers. The thing we didn't realize, I think, in that one is that the Chargers are bad. And Derek Carr is not going to like self-destruct against bad teams, but like I think against a good team he might.
Yeah, both these teams double-digit underdogs, and it's not even
the
close.
first round of the playoffs.
And I'm looking forward to betting on the other side of that. We didn't talk about the Saints a whole ton. You're not overreacting to the Saints?
I didn't get to watch that game much because, frankly, like I was watching Red Zone most of the time, and the Saints never got in the Red Zone. And to the Falcons' credit, neither did they. It was sort of or detriment, I guess. They were both sort of playing between the 40s, patty cake. But no, I mean, just chalk it up. These teams have bad losses, right? I mean, your 94 Niners lost 40-8 to the Eagles, so
this is
Charlie Garner.
Yeah, I'm not overreacting to it. We saw Breeze slow down last year at the end of the season. This is not Breeze slowing down. I think this is more him needing to get back into the flow of things.
Do you think, here's a question, just to end this. The Saints are not a come from behind team. And I think that like when I look at that game and I just like kind of looked at the play by play and everything, the Falcons got on top of the Saints early and sort of controlled the game. And I think when your quarterback is a kind of a lateral, he's throwing east-west, right? It's harder to come back. And I think that might be, and we look and see like even, obviously Bridgewater was playing, but his style is similar to Breeze. They were ahead in all those games. They did not have to come back in any one of those games. And even like a season ago, like, you know, the games where they lost.
Vikings almost comeback was pretty impressive.
Yes. And then the Vikings, they did come back against the Vikings at US Bank Stadium on Sunday Night Football. That was mostly turnovers and stuff, right? But like I think you to beat the Saints, you do exactly what the Falcons did today, which is score first and then control the game and then put pressure on Breeze. And the Saints love, as most teams do, to play from ahead, but I think especially so because they got guys who are underneath that can just like paper cut you to death once you're ahead, right? I mean, that's what Thomas and Kamara do.
I don't really agree with that because I think Drew Brees is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. If you have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, then you are going to be better at winning when you games in which you're losing.
Every subset.
Yeah. So I'm still buying the Saints.
We'll have to get Steve to look at the splits.
That's a good point. He'll do some analysis there for us. Mahomes. Someone laughed at me the other week for saying that Mahomes was a legit MVP candidate.
Okay, bro.
The tough thing about this is his team might not be good enough, but the dude is insane.
I mean,
where would you put him in the MVP?
The play he made to Mecole Hardman for that touchdown
was incredible. So let's do our MVP right now. We haven't seen Russell Wilson play, so we'll put Russell Wilson 1.
Wilson's 1.
Who do you have 2?
Lamar.
Okay.
And then Deshaun Watson. And then I'm going some combination of Mahomes and Dak. I think Mahomes and Dak have similar issues in that their team doesn't help them.
All right. I'm disagreeing with you a little bit. I'm going to go Wilson, Watson. We just didn't see Watson play this week. I'm not going to be a prisoner of the moment here. Lamar Jackson just beat the Bengals, who would have trouble winning a flag football tournament in Cincinnati.
He also just beat the New England. But yeah, you're right.
Sure. But I'm not I don't care that much about this game that he played. Putting him number 3. Not too terrible, right? Mm-hmm. I think he's a legit MVP candidate. I would have Deshaun Watson ahead of him. I would have Mahomes and then Prescott.
Here's a question. Where does Derek Carr rank?
In the MVP conversation?
He's top 10, isn't he? By our measure of MVP, he's top 10.
Oh, you mean in wins above replacement?
I mean, he's a top 10 QB in the NFL right now.
Oh, wow. No.
I'm not saying he's the 10th guy I'd want. I'm saying he's playing the 10th best or better.
Well, he's not playing better than Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers still in there. He's probably not playing better than Kirk Cousins overall.
I think he's playing better than Kirk, man.
Who am I forgetting here? He's not playing better than Tom Brady overall.
Yeah, I guess in the old system he's 9.
I think that still gets
Carson Wentz is probably ahead of him. Like I would say,
yeah, it's close.
You know,
it's really close.
Like because again, no defense, no wide receivers.
Right. No, he's been really good.
Winning record.
I think he's like right there at 10, which is crazy to think about.
Stafford's also playing better. I think Stafford deserves it, although he's hurt today, unfortunately.
I want to do this real quick. Worst teams in the NFL, rank them.
I mean, that's the issue is the Jets and the Dolphins won today.
It's the Bengals.
Well, the Bengals are the worst team in the NFL.
The Bengals are the worst team
I think
in the NFL.
I think the Giants give the Bengals a run for their money.
Really?
Well, so
no. It's the
Redskins. But the Redskins are worse than the Bengals because the Redskins
with Haskins.
With Haskins, but also
the H is silent.
But here's the other thing. It's hard though. But like, name me one thing Washington is doing well right now. Like their Hall of Fame left tackle had cancer, and they told him to suck it up.
Right, it's an absolute atrocity.
All
right, so the Bengals are even worse than the Redskins, but then it's the Redskins,
and then it's the Giants.
Okay,
and then it's the Dolphins. But the Dolphins have a plan, so it's better that then it's the Jets, and then it's the Dolphins.
The Dolphins went from being like just. Like, I can't believe this team in the NFL. They're tanking. They're so bad. Should they be?
They're like 4-0 against the spread.
Should they be 30-point underdogs? Yeah. The Dolphins are almost squeaking out of the bottom 5 of the NFL in terms of how bad they are, and that tells you how bad some of these teams in the NFL are.
Here's one last question about this because Daniel Jones looks the part, right, in some ways, but. Like, when you watch him play, you're like, oh, it's not like watching Haskins play.
You know what ways he looks the part?
Yeah.
He's got that Kirk Cousins, I'm going to put up stats.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Way.
Right.
Like, he did not play that well today, but had 4 TDs, no interceptions.
300 some odd yards.
Yeah, no one cares about sacks. He had 6 of them.
Exactly. So, like, you watch him play, and if you're just, like, chilling out watching fantasy or whatever, you're like, oh, Daniel Jones is pretty good. And Darnold outplays him by a country mile. The guy gives up sacks, interceptions, fumbles, all this kind of stuff. And it's weird because I think Giants fans are going to be encouraged by this. It's kind of in the Josh Allen way. Ooh. And next, although the Bills are 6-3, but they're going to come back and be like, oh yeah, this guy can't like actually play at a high level.
It's an issue. All right, normally we don't talk about the Monday night game. But we've got to talk about the Monday night game because it's Seattle, San Francisco, and this is the best game of the entire weekend by a mile. But we're going to get into next week's spreads right after this. So it was 6.5 for a little bit. And in fact, in the Super Contest, it was 6.5. Now it's back to 6. George Kittle is doubtful. So my first thing is this. George Kittle, normally a tight end being doubtful doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How much does George Kittle not playing in this game matter to you?
A lot. I mean, George Kittle going into last week was the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL. So when you look at that, I mean, there's no doubt, there's no reason to doubt why we had, Seattle plus 6.5 at the podcast time as our lock of the week. I wonder, some of that was clearly baked into the initial, right? Because if that was like something he did in midweek, I think we would get a little bit more of an adjustment here. But it matters a lot. The comeback is, of course, like I think Juszczyk is playing, right? And then the two tackles are back, so like they get some players back. But the conventional football wisdom would say a fullback and 2 tackles is worth more than a tight end. But in this, I think in Kittle's case, it's not true. Kittle is a rare beast there. And it helps. I think Seattle has they play a lot of base, and now they can use I think that their linebackers are more than up for the task for the guys that the Niners have left at tight end and Juszczyk in the backs, and that really helps them. Whereas if they had to use Wagner, Kendricks, and KJ Wright in like a too much on Kittle, then those other guys, those backs that Shanahan loves to use. Would I think affect them more. So I think that matchup is better for Seattle as a result. And now they just have to say, okay, well, the Niners receivers, even though Sanders really played well in his first few games, like hopefully they can match up there.
And Emmanuel Sanders is great, but the way that Jimmy G looks to George Kittle is undeniable, especially on third downs and stuff like that.
The only person he's looked like more comfortable towards is Aaron Andrews during his post-game interview.
I set you up perfectly for that one. You're welcome. And So that would worry me quite a bit, but it also hurts their run game. I mean, the guy's a great run blocker as well, and they're going to do that.
Yeah.
So in a game that, is going to be as hotly contested as this one, to me it matters quite a bit, and I actually would consider this, when we hear for sure whether he's in or out, it's currently doubtful. That would sway me potentially more on the side of the Seahawks. So the Seahawks still +6. That's our lock of the week at 6.5. Obviously, if it gets back up to 6.5, I will probably reinvest.
Yeah, I would say even this is a game where, if you had a good weekend betting either NFL or college and you have a little bit of more money, the 225 money line, or whatever end up getting it at, would be a fun sweat. We don't really have an opinion on the total. It's at like a kind of 47.5, 48. I think it was bet up from 45 earlier in the week. So not a whole lot of an opinion there. Maybe some of the derivative markets, as we talked about last week, will be softer, first quarter, first half type of stuff, but nothing on the total. This will be a fun game. And because of the Rams losing, as we talked about, these are the two teams in the AFC West, right, or NFC West right now. So
it's going to be great. Very much looking forward to this game. All right, you ready to get into next week?
Oh, can't wait. Let's do this.
All right, so we're going to move. We spent a lot of time on what happened this week, so we'll move a little quickly here. Let's start off with the games that are actually good next week, and we've got 5 games here. We've got the 2 games that are legit good, and then the 3 games that are on prime time. So the first legit good game is the Houston Texans visiting the Baltimore Ravens. And this was kind of what I was talking about with the Lamar Jackson thing. Like, I'm going to wait until he plays, against Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
What'd you have this at?
I said 3.5 in favor of Baltimore. What did you say?
I have Baltimore -3.
And it is open now. It's -4.5. But it's juiced towards Houston, so you have to lay up $1.20 to bet the Houston +4.5.
Your thoughts?
I like Houston in this spot. The problem is again, this is the hard part about doing it so early this week. Where is Houston at health-wise? I mean, we took them against Jacksonville last week.
Super banged up.
Despite being super banged up, do they get some of their secondary players? Does it matter? Because Houston's basically like, we have a way better quarterback, right?
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. Deshaun Watson was the darling of the NFL, and now Lamar Jackson is that guy. And there's going to be a little chip on Deshaun Watson's shoulder. He's that type of dude, and he's gotten some time to heal up a little bit. If this is more than a field goal, I very much like Deshaun Watson. Because, again, we like to look for reasons to bet on Deshaun Watson.
Yep, for sure.
This should be a great game.
I think for the second consecutive week that they play, he's the undervalued quarterback.
Agree. New England goes to Philly, rematch of Super Bowl from a couple years past. Very different looking teams. No Nick Foles. I have the Philadelphia Eagles getting 2.5 points at home.
And I had Philly getting 4.5. And it looks like the number is smack dab in between. Philly is getting 3.5 at -115.
Closer to you, I think, because of the key number there. I was really curious whether this was going to go over 3 or not. And I guess the bye just influences people a little bit.
Yeah, both teams coming off a bye, but generally speaking, historically, bye teams have affected road teams more positively.
But it's Belichick.
Yeah, so Belichick road, Peterson, good coaching staff, but not on the par of Belichick. So, I don't know though. That's why I said 4.5, I guess, and you said 2.5 because I mean, I think I think we both have good ideas here.
My question is, do you like the Patriots? So you obviously have more faith in the Patriots in the market, but do you actually like the Patriots?
I do, because I think unlike the Ravens, the Philadelphia Eagles are not efficient offensively. They're not going to get on top of New England and make New England get good offensively, which is what they did in the second quarter, but ultimately wasn't enough. The Eagles aren't going to go out there and get up 17-0 on you. There's just not their being efficient offensively, being good offensively early in games is just not their shtick. And so then, okay, where are mismatches in? Well, the mismatches all over Philly's defense. Their secondary is terrible. They lost Jordan Hicks, which is like their linebackers are bad. And, New England can scheme pass protection. So the upfront guys for Philly are not going to be as effective as once thought. So I would lay the points with New England if I had to, especially, you're seeing it at minus 105 now. You could probably buy it down to like minus 125 if you're looking at -3. That might be the way to go, or even just like a money line play if you are willing to risk a little bit more.
No, it's funny because I said 2.5. I was like, yeah.
Because it's a number you wanted.
I don't know if
you wanted New England minus 2.5.
And I realized that, yes, you're stealing my thunder. I was going to get to that. But what I was going to say is I usually try and think about, where's the break even for where I would bet one side.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think about it that way in this game because I could not bring myself to bet Philly in this spot. Just like, yeah. I think we understand. We all understand why.
Yeah.
This should be it should be an interesting game. I could see New England blowing them out, to be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Thursday night football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to Cleveland to play the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be absolutely hilarious. We didn't talk much about Freddie Kitchens. Holy crap, Freddie Kitchens.
I mean,
what in the ever-living Christ Jesus is wrong with Freddie Kitchens?
I mean, he made a 7-course meal out of one of these Dude, red zone goal-to-go situations. When they drove down for the game-winning touchdown, I was like, and there were a lot of times today where I'm like, there's a 0% chance this is going to happen. There's something going to mess up. And, teams overcame. But what did you have it at?
What did I say here? I have Cleveland minus 4.5.
And I had Cleveland minus 3.5 going into the day. And it is now minus 2.5, minus 120.
Oh.
So sort of, wow. They like what Pittsburgh did.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I expected Pittsburgh to lose and lose handily. Yeah. And so
I was more on the I knew the Browns could beat the Bills on their bullshit, right? But I thought Pittsburgh could at least cover the spread against the Rams. And so that's why I was more on Pittsburgh. If you had to bet this right now, would you just buy Pittsburgh up to 3? Because it's plus 2.5 plus 100 right now. If you buy it up to 3 minus 120 or something, that to me is the only bet you can make on Thursday night. Because
I won't, and here's why. I don't think Tomlin's a great decision maker either.
And he dared to be great today, though.
Sure,
he went for it on his own end, I believe.
Yes.
He was.
It was great.
For him.
You know what?
For him.
And you know what? I've been burned so many times by believing that is a sign of true decision-making brilliance.
Can we pause for a second? So Baker won a game. Good for him. 41 dropbacks, just 7 of them pressured. On his 34 non-pressure dropbacks, he was 24 of 34, not bad, 70%. 5.9 yards per game.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
I mean, it's the same.
The Bills are a legit team.
The Bills are a good defense, for sure.
I think that beating the Bills is a real win. Man, I don't know. I thought the Pittsburgh win was so much more about the Rams self-destructing than it was anything about Pittsburgh. And I still do not have any belief that Mason Rudolph is a legit NFL quarterback.
I'm anchoring a little bit because we, of course, wrote before the season that Pittsburgh to make the playoffs and to win the AFC North is a good bet.
Quarterback.
Yeah, but like some of the things that we talked about are coming true. Their young receivers are playing okay, and their defense is good. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of resulting. I would like to see the Steelers get
they played Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'd like to see this, but their defense really hasn't played anybody. I mean, they had a very representative performance against Baltimore for one.
They really looked great against Ryan Fitzpatrick to start that game.
Yeah, you hate to see it. All right,
let's move on. The Chicago Bears go to Los Angeles in a rematch of one of the worst Sunday night games in the history of Sunday Night Football. Bears-Rams from last year. Trubisky Goff Part 2 is going to be just beautiful.
What did you think?
I was going to ask you.
I had Rams minus 6.5.
That is exactly what I had as well.
And that is exactly what it is. So
that's funny because
over-under in this game is 40.5, dude.
That tells you so much. Trubisky played well today, and that is saying something.
No, he played well for half the game. He was like 2 of 7 for like.
Right, but that's playing well for him. 180 yards and playing well.
Matt Nagy went for a 4th down and 1 from his own 29, got the thing rolling a little bit. Lions still had a chance to win that game with Jeff Driscoll at the end. So
there's no way you're betting on Jared Goff laying 6.5, right?
No, I would say, I mean, I've been saying this for weeks, and we actually haven't, with Greenline, we have not been able to do this, but I think this is a buying the Bears spot, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, because
things are looking bleak for the Rams. Their offensive line is absolutely
and the
demolished.
Bears don't suck universally. They have a bad
so if the
quarterback.
Rams lose this game,
which quarterback of these two is better than? I mean, if you draw a distribution of the two, what percentage of their two PDFs intersect? Like it's like 80%.
You just lost all 4 of our listeners there. You're really going to use an acronym for a distribution function?
Well, like, okay, but these two guys are not that different from each other is what I want to say.
I disagree. Jared Goff is significantly better than Mitch Trubisky.
Okay.
Let's not.
Because I would say if they're closer to each other than conventional wisdom, this is a buying the Bears situation.
The issue is that Jared Goff is being paid more than any other quarterback in the NFL, and he does not deserve it. And this is the question that I have: is if the Rams lose this game, there are gonna be a lot of questions about what the hell the Rams are doing at quarterback.
I mean, assuming people in LA care, yeah,
very warranted.
Yeah, so
I don't think they'll be by people in LA. They'll have moved on.
Here's a question though. So Chicago is a storied franchise in the National Football League.
They are.
There's no home field advantage here for the Rams, is there?
No.
I mean, like, there's a lot of reasons to bet Chicago in this one.
At 6.5, yes. That performance today by the Rams is terrifying, in my opinion.
Yep.
Alrighty. This Monday night game is in Mexico City, and it features your Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. I have the Chargers getting 7.5.
I said 5.5, and it's 4.
Well, you know what side I'll be on.
Here's the best bet in this game, in my opinion, though. Under 53.5. The field is bad.
Well, is it?
I mean,
it was bad last year.
It was bad last year.
Are you just saying it's bad?
I'm going to extrapolate. And
so you're going to say that after it was bad last year to the point where they couldn't play the game, they didn't overcorrect and make it the best field on the planet?
Given the NFL's track record in handling problems, yes.
Interesting.
But here's the other thing. It's less. The field thing was a throwaway comment, but the Chargers offense is the slowest, dumbest,
it's not great. But they're playing the Chiefs, who are a very good offense and will skewer that defense.
Yeah, but like, what are the outcomes in this game? I don't see 30-13 as an outcome in this game. That goes under.
I'm sorry. Have you seen the Chiefs play defense?
Yeah, I've also seen the Chargers play offense.
Have you seen? Your Chiefs are like playing 9.5 on 11.
Don't talk about Anthony Hitchens like that, okay? I just
really
think the
bad.
Chargers are.
I'm not taking a Chiefs under. Okay. Just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
Maybe we won't. It'd be interesting to see where the numbers come out.
So you said it's 4.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's 4.
I will. Wow.
Minus 195 on the money line.
Even after the Chargers lost to the Raiders, huh?
Yeah.
That's surprising to me.
No home field advantage. I mean, honestly, this is probably a mistake. Well,
I really like the Chiefs in this game. Okay. Well, we're rolling on to the crappy games, of which there are, of course, very many. Atlanta, Carolina. I have the Carolina Panthers favored by 4 at home.
I did not have the Falcons winning today, so I had 5.5 was my line, and it is 6.5.
Wow.
So you are on the
I'm on the
this
Falcons.
is a trap. This is a trap.
Oh,
this is a trap.
Just kill me now.
Because here's the thing: this Carolina offense. I don't buy Carolina as a team, but their offense moves the ball.
Oh, I'm just back. I'm back in it.
No,
you know what the funny thing is? I got a confession.
You bet them today, didn't you? At 14, you had to. You could not.
God,
I put it up on Pick Watch, and I was just like, Kyle Allen.
I'm done talking about the Falcons.
Okay.
We're moving on. I can't believe that. Dallas goes to Detroit. This would be a better game if Jeff Driscoll wasn't potentially playing. Let's assume that Matt Stafford is playing. I think. Did you assume that? What'd you assume?
No, I did this before I went out this morning, and so I had. Okay, the Stafford line for me is Detroit plus 3.5.
Yeah, I had Detroit plus 3.
And then if Driscoll plays, what would you say it is?
Plus 6.5.
Yeah, I think Stafford's more than that over Driscoll, but I think I was predicting Dallas would struggle this week, right? Those are our models. So I was.
What is it? Is there a lineup?
I don't think so, because I don't think he's. I don't think.
No idea.
Yeah, his status is unknown. If you're Detroit, you just got to sit him, right? I mean, you're 3-5-1.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
The division is out of reach.
You've shown enough that I think you can.
Well, if you're Darrell Bevell and Matt Stafford, you're like, yeah, there's a future here, right? I mean, you lose a couple close games. I mean, you're a better team than your record indicates, but for the second straight season, a team is going to ride the Driscoll train for the second half of the year. You hate to see it. I would say it's if Driscoll starts.
Dallas, honestly, if Driscoll starts, that means nothing for Detroit, but means a lot for Dallas.
Yeah, I think
they have to.
I think it gets out to maybe double digits if Driscoll plays.
Yeah, because they have to win this game.
Yeah.
All right, Jacksonville goes to Indy. I am assuming that Jacob comes back, and that if Jacoby Brissett plays, the Indianapolis Colts will be 4.5-point favorites over the Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a bye.
Yeah, I had Indy -3. It does not look like it's available here for obvious reasons. Boy, was Hoyer bad today. Look at all this red. 6.1 yards per pass attempt win. Clean. All of his interceptions were clean pocket interceptions.
He was really bad. The better quarterback was Ryan Fitzpatrick. He was getting points. This is happening now for the fifth straight week for the Dolphins.
And people act like the Dolphins can't just get ahead and tank the rest of the game. That's what they try to do.
It's so funny, man.
Although the Colts got a lead late, and Fitzy brought him back.
Speaking of Ryan Fitzpatrick, finally we'll have a line here. Buffalo at Miami.
What did you say?
I have Miami getting 4.5.
Oh, jeez. I had Miami getting 10.5. At home, Buffalo. What is it? 6.5. But to bet the Dolphins is -120. So the Dolphins fever is alive and well, which means
fever pitch.
I think
they're going to get
They're going to get just unbelievably torched in this game. So
I would say yes, but that's just
total 39.5. Bills games have played under most of the year.
They're trying.
No,
they're trying, man.
And it was their biggest indictment early.
Trying.
But they've had some players. I think Miami's got some players that are functional for them.
Let me tell you what I'm not doing. I'm not taking Josh Allen on the road as a road favorite of 6.5 points. I mean, that would be my thought.
Yeah, former first-round pick Charles Harris is playing well.
You really love to see that.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Denver Broncos going to face your Minnetonka Vikings.
Off a bye.
I have Minnesota favored by 10.
I said 9.5. Do we have a line here? Do you have one on that they just played? Is the issue.
I can find one for you. Just what I do.
George going off screen here for the goodies.
Right. Where is this game? 9.5.
Well, there we are.
That's prior to Sunday night. So, sure.
I mean, Minnesota maybe gets a little bit more help.
Brandon Allen is not good at football.
No, and Zimmer's not one to let. Although
Brandon,
they lost to Matt Moore 2 weeks ago, so we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. New Orleans. Or no, what's next?
Well, you could look at the.
I could. I have my own sheet.
The New York Jets, right? So do I. I managed to split the screen. It's fucking modern technology, and it's amazing. The New York Jets play the Washington Redskins. I cannot wait for this football game. This is going to be amazing. Who's favored in hell when it's just the two worst possible things? I have it being a pick'em. Because what else could you possibly have here?
Well, I mean, there's home field advantage is a thing, right?
Right,
no?
but the Redskins don't have home field advantage, and they're the worst team.
They have home field advantage, though.
No, they don't. Have you seen these games? They don't have fans at their stadium.
They have. I think okay. I thought that the game would be a pick 'em on a neutral field, and then I said -2.5 because the books would want somebody to bet the Washingtons off a bye. So I said 2.5. It would be -1.
Interesting.
So closer to a pick 'em, but still.
I mean, I see pick here, but this game is going to be really bad. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Here's a game that might be exciting. New Orleans, off of that embarrassing loss, goes to Tampa Bay to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have the Bucs getting 4.
I had the Bucs getting 8.5, and it is 5. So you know what side I'm on here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, but 8.5. I mean, the 8.5 makes sense because there was a very real chance Tampa Bay was going to crap the bed in the game against Arizona, which they almost did. Mm-hmm. And New Orleans was 14-point favorites and lost. So that's where this number is. I think overreacting probably to what we saw this week. New Orleans hasn't lost in Tampa Bay in like a decade. So
don't foresee it happening here.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Whew. Arizona goes to San Francisco. We obviously haven't seen San Francisco play yet, but I believe there is a line here. I have San Francisco favored by 12.5.
Yeah, I think San Francisco's gonna might lose outright tomorrow. So I said, and then I said Arizona. Yeah, I thought Arizona was gonna put up. Well, they did put up a fight. So this doesn't. So I have San Francisco as -11.5. I think, yeah. So and the line is currently 13.5. So I would be on the side of Arizona here, and I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
All right, last one. Cincinnati, our Bengals, the worst team in the NFL, are going to Oakland to play the Raiders. I have Oakland favored by 9.5.
And I have the same exact one, and it is 10. The Bengals were worse than people thought.
Here's the thing. No chance in hell I'm considering taking Ryan Finley on the road. Come on, man.
This is I think this is under 48.5 to me. I think Oakland is going to want to grind it out, running game. I think the Bengals could probably cover this 10 points, but I don't know if I want to put any of my own money on it. So let's see what the model says in the middle of the week.
All right. Of this Week 11 slate, the one that you are going to go home and bet on is what?
Oh, I have to look at the sheet here if I can muster the intelligence. Okay. Let's go with Chicago +6 at.
Isn't it 6.5?
6.5 at LAR.
Yeah. By the way, I had this weird idea. I was watching someone do a tasting of like a liquor. Someone sent it to me. It was like, hey, check this out. And the description is just as hilarious as someone tasting like a wine or a beer or whatever and like telling you all of the flavors and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we should just do this as a bit where we, just as an excuse to drink alcohol, taste these things, but we're really describing a team or a game. Like, oh, this one has,
this one sucks.
It's kind of a stinky, I don't know, whatever. It's late. Yeah. I kind of think it has legs. We'll see. My favorite is Houston getting 4.5 in Baltimore. I like Deshaun Watson quite a bit, although I really do like Chicago, and I also really like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think there's probably no way we won't be on the Chiefs. We haven't had a pick on them in a while, but we've always sort of been shaded that way. And I think with the fact that the Chargers lost to Oakland should significantly reduce their ratings. Plus, Phillip Rivers, who's kind of graded well at quarterback, has puffed up those ratings a little bit. Rivers has fallen significantly after
that was
what is an absolute dog bleep effort against the Raiders. So
it's really not good.
Yeah, so I I just looked at Rivers' page and I reminded we had Miami plus 16.5. That was probably the last time Miami didn't cover. So
yeah, that was a joke.
Okay.
They should have. I think there's actually this week is exciting. There are some games that I'm looking forward to watching and potentially betting, which is actually a really bad sign.
Yeah, this week we did not have a ton. Even on the original list, there was only like 5 games. And then unlike last week a lot of money moved, and then we ended up with picks at the end of the week. And we had some, I think, like Carolina under, and then Minnesota. Once that number got out to 3.5, we liked Minnesota, but not as much this week. So even, this week wasn't a big sweat just because we didn't have a lot of games. That might be different this week.
All right. You have a confession from this week. I have a confession. Would you like me to go first? You want to go first?
You go first. Go for it.
Right. So you were gone.
Mm-hmm.
You were visiting the lovely city of Philadelphia. You were on a panel of a few learned minds. You, of course, the most learned of those minds.
True.
So I was alone here. Now, you missed a day that you wish you were here for. So on Friday, I go to the gym as I do every day, and I work out. And
we've got some feedback, by the way, that like we all know. I'm just kidding.
Oh, was it someone that doesn't look very good when they look in the mirror?
I'm just kidding.
No. So the story is actually pretty funny. So I finish working out. I go down to the locker room, and I notice the locker room is very quiet.
Oh no!
I'm like, this isn't a great sign. So take my clothes off, get my soap.
Not a good start.
On my way to the showers. Notice that the showers sound very, very quiet.
Well, like half of them are out of order anyway.
Oh, interesting. You should say that, because guess how many were out of order on Friday?
All of them.
All of them. Now, I go to the gym in the middle of the day because, well, I instead of a lunch break, go to the gym. But I don't exactly anticipate being sweaty in my clothes for the rest of the day.
Yeah. I would just go home.
So I'm pretty pissed. And I have a lunch that I was supposed to go to in like 10 minutes. So I don't exactly have like a bunch of time. I can't run home and shower. So I'm livid. I'm furious. Like, I cannot believe this is the case. So here's what I did. I'm curious what you think about this. I went and jumped in the pool and pretended I swam a lap. I pretended to swim a lap. So then I went back into the locker room and I basically showered using a sink.
No. Like,
I washed
and all
my
the
hair.
time, all the time we've known each other.
I washed my balls.
Stop.
I'm sitting there throwing water on myself. There's no one in there. Everyone else has decided they're too weak.
And all the time we've known each other, the person who would make do with no shower 99 times out of 100 would be me.
Yeah.
You have very little tolerance for things not being like perfect. This is a very this is a very surprising story because
what other choice did I have?
Well, no, I mean, even I would have like canceled lunch and gone home or basically said, knowing who you're going to lunch with, I would have said, hey, can you back it up a half hour? I'm going to go home and take a shower. And then I'll sacrifice an Uber fare to get to lunch a half, because like, even I don't go back to work like sweaty like that, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I washed my hair.
Right,
I know
my face. But you also smelled like chlorine the rest of the day.
Not really though, because I like managed to like wash enough. Well, I got a towel.
Okay.
And I soaked the towel.
You exfoliated?
Yeah.
With those towels at the Y?
I'm not proud of it. I'm confessing it, obviously. I'm sorry. I had to get that off my chest. I had to let you know. That's what you missed. What do you have to confess here? What'd you do this weekend that...
I was planning not watching college football, given I was at Wharton on Friday.
Good job.
And
we've talked about this before.
And I got back from the airport at 10 a.m. I had not slept that much the night before. It was a lot of fun.
Humble brag. And
I slept from about 10 until 2. I woke up and I started watching Penn State versus Minnesota. I figured that would be, growing up in Minnesota, I'm not a Gophers fan, but I have plenty of friends who are. and they won, and I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then the next game was LSU Alabama, and Ben had written up Alabama, so I watched that game, and then I kind of look at our picks and everything. I'm like, oh, hey, we're kind of doing okay. And then I watched college football the rest of the day. I overcame. Yeah, I caved in, and I didn't feel that bad about it because like I was able to like just watch one game at a time instead of like going back and forth. But it was still kind of like, oh, hey, it's 1:00 in the morning and I'm watching San Jose State versus Hawaii.
Yeah.
And I did go to bed at halftime of that game, but
God.
it was probably too much college football for me.
I even commented yesterday how nice it was that after the Alabama LSU game, there was nothing else even remotely close to worth watching, but you managed.
Georgia, yeah, there was a lot of like cool upsets in the second part, which, we lean upsets almost all the time. So,
do you think you can manage to get back on the wagon next week?
We'll see. I mean, one of the big things was that I had finished a big project, so it wasn't like it was a Saturday where I had like half as much to work on. So it was kind of like, oh, what am I? What? I'm avoiding naps.
Your renovating of the bathrooms here was really a big project, and we're thankful.
You hate to see it, yeah. You hate to see it.
That was our Week 10 Sunday night, Monday morning show. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday. Enjoy Monday Night Football. This is going to be a great game. It should be. I am really looking forward to watching.
Tess, Witt, Boog, let's go.
No Witt. Lack of Witt.
Oh, yeah, Witt
was tonight.
Witt barely played tonight, yeah.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.